Well, I believe the Angel team is probably still technically the fastest Nid team. If you didn't summon on tier, I do have a small alternative for a Ragnarok team to clear all 3 floors of Nid. So we have Scotty, Freya, Freyr, and Red Meg. As you probably guessed, you definitely need all of their relics except Meg because her relic does absolutely nothing for her. So for Scotty, her relic is going to boost her all stats, I believe. Yes, every time she uses a skill if there's no debuffs. Now, how often is there going to be no debuffs on Scotty? Well, as long as you're cleansing with Red Meg, it's going to be pretty often. So you should be able to stack her relic to max, and then every time you are cleansing, if there was a debuff, you're boosting HP stats, you're filling everyone's gauge by 1, and you might also be healing. So with a single target ult drain, Red Meg is pretty stable to a lot of demon teams now. Freya relic, which is definitely the first relic anyone should get if you've been farming Nid for the last 7 months. This is going to put a stance cancel on her single targets and increase her all stats by 4% every time she uses a skill, and then the exact same reason she is on the Goddess team, because that relic makes her Goddess. And then Freyr is the latest addition with his relic. Ragnarok and Unknown, they're going to get boosted. Basic stats and single target damage is going to get boosted, so a little bit of synergy there, lots of boosts coming out. For the artifact set, this is going to be the Deer set to increase basic stats. And for their gears, Freya and Freyr Sun Duo attack crits, pretty standard stuff. Scotty is going to be on triple defense, and this is so that she is at the lowest HP, because most of Nid's single target attacks are going to come out on the Scotty, which is the exact same reason we have the red Tarm link on her, Sariel on Freya, Mile on Freyr, and Red Meg is going to be on HP defense. As you can see, these are just gear selectors from these for the tickets we got for the anniversaries, so a lot of this is not necessary. I think what is UR'd is what you should definitely have UR'd, and then the rest of these pieces are definitely not required to be UR, but obviously you're going to want to push them as high as you can. And then the links for the most part are going to be on HP defense, except for Freya, because she's dealing a lot of damage, so we're going to go ahead and jump into it. Alright, so floor 1 phase 1 is going to be the fastest, probably, or not the fastest, but probably one of the easier phases to deal with. The only thing we really need to worry about is the amount of debuff spam that he does, which is literally every turn. So we're going to open with Meg Attack. Is going to push some ults, push HP related stats up. She has a very good passive there. A couple Freyr cards, and then the Freya Attack just to get some damage out. And we want to make sure that we are not spending the cleanses too early. It might be a little tempting to spam Meg cards to push ults fast, but phase 1 is literally nothing but debuffs. So he's got a bleed and a poison packed in a one card, so that's a pain to deal with. So hopefully you have a cleanse, you didn't use it, and maybe you draw more than one if you need it, but we probably won't need it because usually this takes about 3 turns. So with the cleanse coming out, as long as there's debuffs, Meg is going to also put down a heal. I think it's a 20% HP heal, and this is going to allow Scotty to have no debuffs for her relic to proc. We opened with the buff removal first because that doesn't apply a debuff to her, and then we will end with 2 all stat increases from her relic there. We also pushed her ult so that we can have a heal, since we just spent the Meg heal trying to rotate through all of our heals as efficiently as we can. So he's using his single targets onto Scotty, like we mentioned. She's gonna have the lowest HP. He is ulting here, but usually phase 1 only takes 3 turns. So we're gonna use Freya and Freyr since they're both 1 off thanks to the Meg skills that we used. And then we will finish the phase with Scotty ult. I think she was the only one missing HP because of the cleanse from Meg. That's fine. We're going to come to phase 2. Now phase 2 is where things start to get tricky because he does have a gray buff, and that is a final damage decrease that can only be removed by stance cancels. So as long as you have Freya Relic, her single targets turn into stance cancels. If you don't, you have to merge Freyr's attack, that the one card that's not a cleave, and you have to get extremely lucky and pray that you get 1,000,000 copies of those, because it's only a stance cancel at rank 2. So we're going to double stance cancel, and then thanks to 2-part hitting ults, you can actually 1-tap phase 2, and we're on the last phase. So this is the only time that you get the buffs. He has, I think that was the defense-related increase, or defense-related increase. When he doesn't, I think when he survives an ultimate move, so he gets a little buffer. So, or tank here, I should say. Phase 3 is also when we were first met with the Immortality gauge. The only way to decrease that is just attack. You used to have to merge a ton of Pierce cards, but they nerfed it, so it's pretty simple. 2 silvers do 45 apiece, and then a bronze, I believe, does 20. So 2 bronze and a silver is going to drain him to 0. Now, when you do drain the gauge, you need to also make sure that you don't get him below 30% HP. He does have a attack-related buff, and he can one-shot if he gets you, or if you get him that low. So as long as we keep him above 30, get the gauge to 0, and then finish him off from 30 plus, we should be fine. So I want to make sure that we can finish with Scotty ults so that we can keep our health as high as possible. And that's pretty much the name of the game. Keep the HP high, and we should be fine. So that's going to be floor 1, and everyone is maxed, so we're good to go for floor 2. Now, different from the other demonic beasts, Nid doesn't really retain his previous floor buffs, so we don't have to worry about the defense-related boost when he survives an ult. Floor 2 is also where the Patience team fails because it does not have buff removal, which is something obviously you can see on Scotty. That's something that the Goddess team also has. Very crucial because he has an immortality buff, and if you don't have buff removal, you literally cannot do this floor. So the idea here is to attack a bunch, and when he is pretty much one tap, you want to remove the gauge. You don't want to remove it early because he stacks like 10 final damage decrease buffs, and he pretty much doesn't take any damage. No amount of buff cancels are going to get you out of that floor fast enough than you'd like, so it's not worth getting, it's not worth buff canceling too soon. So second turn, he is a fan of using debuffs again, so instead of bleed and poison, he's now applying corrosion. We're going to cleanse that off with our Meg Cleanse. That's going to push Freyr ults. We're going to go ahead and move for Scotty so that we can have her ult as well, and we'll have another full heal. We are back to cycling between the heals so that we can stay alive. Freya is 2 gauge away. We obviously didn't pull a Meg card because we didn't have enough space. Now his buff is going to be a recovery buff, which is similar to, is it Spring? Spring Elaine? Full Wings Elaine? Her buff skill. We do damage, he's going to recover a little bit of HP. He is going to counter, he is going to ult, but we are going to try to kill him here before we have to deal with either of them. So we're going to double ult, we are going to buff cancel, and then if the buff cancel doesn't finish him off, hopefully this last Freyr attack will do him in. I believe she does have 2 stacks of her relic, so buff cancel does not quite kill, but you can see the gray buffs there coming out. Freyr target, single target's only dealing 39k, but it's enough to finish him off. Phase 2 is going to be similar to the previous Phase 2. He's going to have 3 gray buffs that can only be removed via stance cancels, which we have 4 of technically. So we're going to start with probably Cleanse, then stance cancels. That's going to push Freya ults, Meg ults. That'll put 1 gauge on Freyr and Scotty. We're going to go for this gold merge because that is going to put him at 4 gauge. And we don't need 4 stance cancels, you only need 3. Though I believe you don't want to cancel all of them on, is it floor 2 or floor 3? I think you don't want to, I think you only want to cancel 2 because he has a damage increase if you cancel all 3. And for every stance that you do cancel, or I should say gray buff with stance cancel, it does infect you. It's only 1 turn infect, so once you're done attacking, it's already gone, so it's not going to roll over. He is focusing Freya. She's locked up. She's dissolved, defense down. We're just going to throw out some more attacks. It looks like he is going to stance cancel, or not stance cancel, sorry, he's going to counter. So we're going to save our gold stance cancel for that. I believe when he counters, he also brings his gray buffs back. So we want to make sure that we are holding on to 1 every time he is throwing up his counter. Alright, so that is... Oh, there's the dissolve, that's right. So the Freya ult is gone. We were ult locked anyways, couldn't use it, didn't have a cleanse. It is what it is. Now he's single target into Meg. These single targets are fine. If he locks us up, we have a cleanse this time. There's a stance. There's his gray buffs back. He is ulting. We don't have ult drain, so I don't think we're killing here either. We're probably going to end up tanking it, so we're going to go ahead and cleanse now because Freya is a little under half. We're going to remove the counter, and we will double ult. Obviously, we're not attacking the counter by ulting, but we are doing our best to remove as many grave passives, well, not as many, up to 2 passives at a time, so try to maximize our damage that way. Freya's double hit, not quite finishing him off. I guess we are going to have to tank an ult. We'll see what this damage looks like here. It seems to me that he likes to randomize the single targets after the first 4, because there is pretty much no reason for him to continue, or to not continue attacking Freya, since she was the lowest. So I guess you have to keep that in mind. A little bit of an RNG fest for whatever reason. I guess that's the demonic beast specialty. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and push Freya ult, not Freya, Freyr. Using his 2 cards should be enough to kill when he's, what, 9% HP. So we will transition into phase 3 with 3 ults, and we will be in a pretty good position to get that guy down here. You'll encounter the immortality gauge for a 2nd time, and it has a different mechanic than the first 4. So you can only reduce its gauge a 1/3 of the way at a time. 1/3 of the way per turn. Every time that he is under 50% HP, the gauge goes down, 33%. If it's above 50%, the gauge is going to go right back up by the same amount. So we want to make sure that we can deal a lot of damage and keep him under 50% HP. Now you'll see that he also has a blue cancelable final damage decrease buff, but he does get one every turn. So we can deal enough damage with 1 buff up, so we didn't cancel it. But when he starts getting to 2 and he starts getting to 3, it might be a good idea to cancel him then. Unless, you are a good amount under 50% HP, and you don't have to worry about him recovering his gauge. So we're going to cleanse the corrosion. Again, he's a big fan of using more debuffs. We can push Skadi ult by moving and using her buff cancel. And then with the buffs gone, Freya ult should deal a decent amount of damage. I believe this single attack looks like it's enough to get him back under 50. Freya attack's going to make sure, in case we're blind, that's going to get him down to 30%. 33% is left on the gauge, so we basically have 2 more turns of dealing with him. We'll get it to 0, and then we still have to try to kill. He is stacking HP buffs, so he's getting tankier. His regen's getting pretty big. His lifesteal is pretty big. I guess those are actually HP-related stats. So he's ulting, and we've been holding on our Meg Drain. So we've got that to burn. We have a Cleanse to burn, or we could burn the Skadi ults. Probably not a good idea to do technically either right now. Both of them, I think, are going to heal for a lot more than what we're missing, especially after whatever lifesteal Freya can manage from her single target. So we do hold the heals here. Not too worried about the damage. He's still below 50% HP. He still had a single buff on, so we didn't bother with buff canceling. And we got a merge on the cleanse, so that's going to be a big heal. Takes 3 turns to get his gauge down all the way, like I said. And we are free to attack him as we can. We could double cleanse. Or not double cleanse, double heal. I think we'll go ahead and do that. So buff cancel, get the buffs down. Heal with Skadi, and then hopefully the Freya attack does finish him off. Not too sure what this damage will look like, since he does have 3 stacks of his HP related. 178. Okay, we didn't crit. Alright, so I guess we have to hang out 1 more turn. Even if we do, which is fine, we pulled the extra cleanse, so we have another heal. And then we just triple ult, because we're not worried about 1 buff. Oh, he's ulting himself. Explosion! Explosion. Even more debuffs. He's a real big fan of this. That's why Alat was such a crucial addition to the Angel team with the debuff immunity. But the rank 1 cleanse, also something that is very nice. And when it's packed into a heal, it's much better than somebody like Margaret's. So he almost healed up all the way, but triple ult, 2 of the ults have 2 hits to them. Doesn't matter, it's not enough. That's going to go ahead and finish him off. on floor 2. Should be full HP, and we are ready to jump into floor 3. So we are on the annoyingness that is floor 3. You are already met with an immortality gauge right at the beginning. So this team does not have the same firepower that the Angel team has, and they can one-tap phase 1 of this floor. So what we're going to do instead is push Meg's skills, where we are cleansing absolutely nothing, but every time we use our skills, we get the HP related boost. We're pushing up everyone's ult by 1, and I think every time their turn starts, he just adds 54% to his gauge. So the best way to kill the gauge is to spam ults. The best way to get ults is to rush them through Meg skills. So that's exactly what we're doing. We got another 2 Meg cards. We're obviously going to dish those out. That's going to have, I believe, Meg and Freyr finished. So we just need 1 card from Scotty and then 1 card from Freya. So it looks like 54% a turn. I think each skill drops it down by a bit. Yes, so looks like bronze skills drop it down by about 8 or 9. Rank 2s, I believe, are about 20 or 21, and then rank 3s do about 50. And pure skills of the similar types do about double. So keep that in mind. Another plus 54% gets the gauge to 75. Ults are, I believe, 33 apiece. So with a quadruple ult, it's definitely going to wipe out the first phase. Now, if you don't quad ult, whatever you use after he buffs, whatever skill it is, it's going to get locked. So if I were to do 3 ults and then an attack from like Freya, then Freya gets attack locked. If I do, you know, somebody else, then they will get attack locked. If I do like a heal, I think I get heal locked. When he has that weird buff up, he likes to basically turn you off, so it's better to just, you know, triple ult if possible. 3 ults gets it down to 0 gauge, and then the final ult will finish him off. So phase 2 is similar to every other phase 2, but he has 4 gray buffs instead of 3. Now you have to stance cancel as much as possible here. If he has all 4, he has a gray buff, which is damage increase, which we don't absolutely want at all. So we want to make sure we get rid of that. And every time we stance cancel, we are going to expose a weakness, because his immortality gauge is here literally the entire floor. And every time that, I believe it's his turn, I think it's when he recovers a little bit on the gauge. I don't know, it's when we use, it's when we stance cancel, sorry. Every time we stance cancel, he recovers gauge. And when he does that, when we stance cancel, we expose a weakness. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can see the buff symbol is on him. So every time we use a buff, that's how we'll drain the gauge. Every time we stance cancel, that's how the gauge increases. So we basically are playing a back and forth game here. But we are almost always going to stance cancel. Because he has a counter, we're going to want to remove it. If he gets back to 4 gray buffs, we're going to want to remove those as well. And he gets them back every time he counters, so, I mean, you can spam all of your stance cancels in 1 turn and expose multiple weaknesses at once, or you can take it slow and just kind of guarantee that you never have to deal with the counter, because if you spam them all and you have 0 stance cancels left for when he counters, you don't have any ults, I don't know, you're kind of like a sitting duck there. So I kind of like to space it out a little bit. Right now, I mean, I don't have any. We have 2 weaknesses exposed. One of them is buffs, the other one's recovery. We do have a buff from Meg. Obviously, we're not drawing it, so we're not draining this gauge right now. We don't have recovery skills on this team at all. We got lucky here. We have a merge for Freyr. We're going to go ahead and do that and stance cancel, and then probably double ults, which will give us a merge on Scotty, and that'll be her ults. I'm sure you've also noticed, but this phase, he also likes to put down darkness for whatever reason, like he's Estarosa, so... That stance cancel looks like it exposed ults. So every time we will ult him, it should drain the gauge a little bit. Just a chunk at a time. I need to go ahead and make sure that's what that was. I think he has one for literally almost every damage type, I want to say. But it takes a while, right? Especially if you don't run into the skills that you need. So right now, ults and buffs. We have 1 ult, we have 1 buff. We definitely need to get Meg back up. We need a drain. We don't have a drain. Hopefully, no, actually we can't kill here. we don't have enough to drain the gauge, so it's gonna get down to what, like 15, I want to say, with the Scotty ult. He's gonna get down to like 1 HP, but there won't be anything we can do about it. 14%. So he's definitely gonna get his ult off. He is also countering, so hopefully we get another stance cancel. Maybe that reveals a relevant weakness that we can exploit. We don't have a stance cancel. What we're gonna have to do is push for ults. Oh wait, we do have a stance cancel. Sorry, it's Freya single target. See, I'm already forgetting about that. We go ahead and use that. That gets rid of the counter. We have the drain, so we don't get ulted. I thought he was ulting already. I must have missed that. Or I did drain. I already don't remember. But we're gonna push ults, like I said. So we're gonna get 2 gauge for 2 meg cards. Freya is 1 away, so we go ahead and move him manually. Freya, I think, is 1 off as well. We can get hers the following turn. Since we stance canceled, the gauge is back up to 20. And now I think regular attacks can finally drain the gauge. So that's pretty much the weakness that we want. And as you can see, it took like, I don't know, 4 or 5 stance cancels just to find it. So we should be able to kill here with triple ults if they're doing 6 or 7 apiece. So we'll do the drain just in case. I think the drain is still, what, 3 or 4%? How much? Come on. Oh, it's 1%. That's hilarious. But ults are 6, so this is going to add up literally perfectly. 6%, yeah. And then it gets the gauge to... Oh, it gets the gauge to 1. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess it's rough. It's like 5 or 6, or maybe it's like 0.5%. That's troll? The Freya Abyss would have killed if it got to 0. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? He didn't do a lot of damage. We made sure to drain as a precaution. He is at 1%. We're going to go ahead and push Freya ults. We need to use this as an attack because it's going to get the gauge to 0. Finally. 40k, not a lot. We don't care about the counter because we're killing. And we are finally on the last phase of this monstrous beast. Now, this gauge is a little different again. So he is always going to have massive amounts of regeneration drake. In order to get the gauge down, we just have to attack. But if we at any point deal less than 10% of his health, then he will recover 10% of the gauge. So there are increments for the amount of damage that we need to do, and that will reduce the gauge by X amount. So if we can deal 10%, I think it's a 5% reduction. 25% is 13, 50 is 18, 75 is 25. So at the absolute best, you get the gauge all the way to 0 in 4 turns. 5th turn, you kill. At the worst, I don't even really want to picture how many turns that'll take. 10% HP reduction for 5%. I don't know. That'd be like 20 plus turns. So that's not something you want to deal with. So just try to deal as much damage as you can every turn. That's the idea. We'll slowly chip away at his regeneration. It really doesn't matter because he's immortal the entire time. But if we can keep it, you know, a good chunk every turn, we'll chunk it away. So as you can see, we got it down to 70% HP. He's only got 3 stacks of his regen left. And it's literally just a chip fest. We're chipping away at this boss slowly but surely, making sure we do 10% every turn, trying to keep our HP up. We want to try to cycle Scotty ults. We want to try to cycle Meg cleanses. He is throwing it in his ult, so you need to make sure that you can do what you can to drain it. And he's also using a stance, so we want to make sure that we don't waste our stance cancels. No cards are wasted here, so we want to try to keep everything that he is doing in mind. We want to drain when we can, stance cancel, everything else we use as much as possible so that we get this gauge down. Immortality is a terrible mechanic. I don't know. It's such a bitch to deal with. I'm surprised that they I mean, I guess I'm not surprised that they nerfed it, right? Because it was so ridiculous pre-nerf. The counter also, ooh, it's reflect, damage reflex. So we actually have a stance cancel ready for it. Got lucky on the draw. We might as well double ult here. Don't need the Scotty ult yet because our HP is fine. Only really want to do it when we, you know, need the heal. How much is that? Ooh, Freya, or that was a mill. Fat Millie. He's all the way to 0. But look at this regen. He's back to 100. That's literally have to do everything we just did again. So we got the gauge down to 32. We couldn't drain him. His ult doesn't do too much damage. We tank it just fine. We've got a lot of all stat increases, so we're fine. We're doing good. Scotty ults definitely could do that after he threw down his. Took a lot of damage there. We can merge into Freya ults. I'm not sure if we could have gotten anyone else's. I don't think so. We got 2 merges for Freya. The only thing about the merges though is he does have a rank down. So if he ranks down, it's kind of like Lily ult. He ranks down, you lose gauge. So I don't remember if he's doing that here. I know it could be on all of his attacks or a specific debuff. I'm not sure. Bleed single target. Bleed single target. Is it the AoE? She's getting close to death. Okay, she's hanging in there. Okay, he doesn't rank down yet, so we're definitely ulting with her. We're down to 20% gauge. Still a chip fest, doing what we can. Definitely gonna ult with her. Probably want to prioritize getting Scotty ult back if possible. And it looks like it is. 500k, not as much as it was last time. Probably don't have as many buffs as we did before. Scotty is staying maxed out on her relic, which is big for us. Which means her heal is going to hit for a good chunk. He's finally down to 7%. He does have an all-stat increase buff now that his regeneration rate for the most part is gone. So, as you can expect, he's going to deal a little bit more damage. All the more reason to keep cycling our Scotty heal and our Meg heal, if possible. His stance is back up. We're going to stance cancel. We finally got a drain this time, so we don't have to deal with his ult. He's doing a double debuff, so we could hold on to the cleanse. We're, you know, not terrible spot for our HP. So I think we'll Scotty ult instead, just to be safe. And then we'll have the double cleanse, or we'll have a cleanse for his double debuff. It looks like we're only going to do 10% this time. Oh, no, we'll do a little more. It's either 10 or 25, so... Oh, we did about 25. Okay, so that went down to 2%. One more turn of dealing at least 10, which we should be able to do, so pretty much one more turn of just dealing with this. Once we get his gauge all the way to 0, we can finally kill him. And this, dude, this takes so long, it's crazy. Such a grind fest, right? I'm sure I know the Angels can do this a lot faster since Mael does a ton of damage, but you know, it's nice to know that there are some alternatives out there for people that can't build a team, or if anyone wants more flexibility or wants to mess around with a different team, you know. It's possible with these guys, so. Didn't have a lot of damage come out of that mega attack, but with all of the buffs from Scotty, she does make sure that we deal at least 10%, so. All stat is there. He's finally at 0. We've got 3 ults. Can 3 ults? No, we have 2 ults. He did the rank down thing. So we lost 2 gauge because 2 skills got ranked down. That sucks. We should have used those skills, I think, sooner. Because we talked about them. We talked about him doing the rank down. We should have just spent the skills. But it's not a big deal. We can get Freya ult back. Just got to use some Meg cards. I don't think the gauge goes back. Well, no, I think it does, actually. I think there's no reason for you to be dealing less than 10% any turn anyways. So the gauge could recover if you aren't hitting him hard. So I think it's safe to say that everyone should be constantly dealing at least 10%. It's literally the whole set of skills that we have are almost all hard-hitting cards. So aside from Meg. So I mean, if you double Meg, I definitely wouldn't triple Meg unless you're ulting. Triple Meg cards, that's a throw. Doing another stance cancel, get rid of the counterattack and the reflect. And 2 ults does the trick. Freya is finally ulting for a mill. And that is all 3 floors of Nid with this Rag team. So if you guys like to drop a thumb, maybe sub if you're into that, and I'll see you in the next one.